Travis Alexander's friends, over the course of a few days, were attempting to call him until his voicemail was full. On June 9th, 2008, it had been 5 days since any of Travis's friends had heard from him. They were supposed to leave for Cancun in just 6 days on June 15th. It's reported that Travis's friend, Mimi, arrives at his house and knocks on the door, but he doesn't answer. 3 other friends arrive and are also wondering where Travis is. They go in through the garage side door and into Travis's section of the house that he was renting with other roommates, and his friends were met with a truly gruesome sight. They first describe a horrendous, foul odor, and there is a lot of blood all over the floor. Travis was found on the floor of his shower. Forensics would later reveal he had been shot in the head. His throat had been slit, and he had been stabbed 27 to 29 times. He also had defensive wounds on his hands and fingers. So who would do such a terrible thing? When asked, Travis's friends revealed a story about his crazy stalker ex-girlfriend, Jodi. Jodi Arias started working for Theft Shield Prepaid Legal Company when she attended the business's convention in Las Vegas in September of 2006. That's where she met 29-year-old Travis Alexander, who was a salesman and motivational speaker for the same company. A mutual friend introduced them, and it was attraction right from the beginning. Not like it was hard to imagine. Jodi was a beautiful girl with a great smile. Travis had that kind of personality that people say made you want to be around him. Even though they lived in different cities, Jodi in Yreka, California, and Travis in Mesa, Arizona, they spent hours talking on the phone and traveled together. She posted a lot of photos of their travels on MySpace, and it seemed like they had an ideal relationship. But of course, like in any relationship, there were hang-ups. Travis was a Mormon, and it really was a struggle for him spiritually, because even though they had an electric and raw sexual relationship, it was completely against his religion. Not only because she wasn't Mormon, but the Book of Mormon explicitly forbids having sex before marriage. So, to combat this problem, Travis started sending missionaries to her house, and in their conversations in the evening, he would read her scriptures from the Book of Mormon. It seemed to do the trick, as it wasn't too long before Jodi was baptized in the Mormon church. Shortly after that was when Travis's friends started to worry about him, as Jodi seemed to get quite possessive. She always had to sit next to him, and she didn't like him talking to other women. It was so bad that 2 of his friends, Sky Lovinger Hughes and Chris Hughes, staged a sort of intervention with him to tell him they were worried about him and thought she was bad for him. Sky said in a Nightline special, "We were just telling him all the things we were worried about with her. And I said, 'She's scary. There's something wrong with her. Travis, I'm afraid we're going to find you chopped up in her freezer.'" Before Travis could respond, Sky says she got a cold feeling over her, and she quietly mouthed the words to Travis and Chris that Jodi was standing outside the door where they were talking to Travis. Chris confirmed this story and said that Travis then got up and quickly opened the door to find Jodi standing there. Sky said the look on Jodi's face was, to quote her directly, evil. After a couple more months, Jodi and Travis broke up. And at that time, Jodi decides to move to Mesa, Arizona, the same place Travis lives. Travis told his friends that Jodi would show up unannounced at his home. She would sneak in through the garage door because she knew the code, and at one point, even snuck in through the dog door. So, why didn't he change the code? Or move? Because it sounds like only sometimes he'd be mad. Other times, they'd just jump right into bed together. All of the information out there about their relationship shows that a lot of the relationship was just about the sex. Jodi had a diary, and in it, she would write about how they would explore each other's sexual fantasies. But after a while, Travis convinced Jodi to move back to California. In an interview, Jodi said, "It just became obvious with time we needed to be apart. We needed to grow apart." Travis's friends said that once she left, he told them he said he was getting his life back and a brand new start because she was finally gone. So, they broke up for good, it seemed. But of course, this isn't the end to their story. In April of 2008, Travis had started expressing interest in a new girl, Mimi Hall. And Jodi, it seemed, had moved on to a new boyfriend, Daryl Brewer. Despite this, Jodi and Travis didn't seem to be able to cut their connection. They continued to talk and text often. Jodi even went as far as to record some of the conversations they had, but without Travis knowing. They were not the sort of conversations anyone who was moving on would normally have. The researcher said they felt kind of dirty listening to them. They were quite personal in nature. And the speculation is that Jodi was recording these to possibly use against him as a weapon in the future. In a call that was played in court, Travis said he wanted to zip tie Jodi to a tree and have anal sex with her while she was dressed as Little Red Riding Hood, which Jodi seemed to respond to enthusiastically. So by now, it's June of 2008. Jodi has plans to go to Salt Lake City for a conference for the prepaid legal company. And Travis has plans to take his new love interest on an all-expenses-paid trip to Cancun that he's received through work, planning to woo her there. However, the underlying problem is the original plan was that Travis was going to take Jodi. But then, of course, they broke up and started seeing other people. On June 2nd, 2008, between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m., Jodi called Travis 4 times, but did not appear to get through to him, since the longest of the calls was 17 seconds. After 3 a.m., Travis called Jodi twice, the first time for 18 minutes, the second time for 41 minutes. At 4:03 a.m., Jodi called Travis back, and the call lasted 2 minutes, 48 seconds. At 5:39 a.m., Jodi set out to drive 100 miles south to rent a car for a long trip to Utah, as shown by evidence of a gasoline purchase at Shell Food Mart in Wairika. On June 2nd, at 8:04 a.m., a blonde-haired Jodi rented a car at Budget Rent-A-Car in Redding, California. She asked them for a white car so it wouldn't stand out, and told them she would return the car to the same Budget in Redding. 2 more calls happened from Jodi to Travis. At 7:02 p.m., Jodi stops at a McDonald's in Lodi, California. Jodi says she spent the night with friends in Monterey. On June 3rd, at 10:10 a.m., Jodi makes 3 bank deposits to 3 different accounts in Monterey. Between noon and 2 p.m., she makes 2 more calls to Travis. Then, sometime during the day, she visits her boyfriend, Daryl Brewer. He testifies that he gave her 2 gas cans because she says she needs them for a long trip. She makes a stop in Pasadena between 8 and 9 p.m. and makes 2 gas purchases at an Arco, possibly to fill up her car and the gas cans. Jodi also calls Travis 2 more times. By late evening on June 3rd, Jodi supposedly sets out for Salt Lake City for the previously mentioned work conference and to meet with Ryan Burns, a coworker and former boyfriend. On the evening of June 4th, Travis missed an important conference call. The following day, June 5th, Jodi met up with Ryan in the Salt Lake City suburb of West Jordan, Utah, and attended business meetings for the conference. Ryan later said he noticed Jodi's formerly blonde hair was now dark brown, and also noticed she had cuts on her hands. On the way to the conference, Jodi and Ryan are pulled over because the license plate on her rental car is upside down, and she's let off with a warning. Ryan testified that Jodi and Ryan returned to his home after the meeting where they make out. Jodi leaves Ryan's house after midnight on June 6th. She drives west through Nevada towards California. She called Travis several times and left several voicemail messages for him. She also, according to records, accessed his cell phone voicemail system. When Jodi returned the car on June 7th at 1:08 p.m., it had been driven about 2,800 miles, 4,500 kilometers. The rental clerk testified that the car was missing its floor mats and had red stains on its front and rear seats that he assumed was Kool-Aid. However, it could not be verified that the car had floor mats when Jodi picked it up, and any stains could not be verified since the car was cleaned before police could examine it. This brings us back to the beginning of our story. It's reported that Travis's new love interest, Mimi, arrives at his house on the 9th and knocks on the door, but he doesn't answer. 3 other friends arrive and are also wondering where Travis is. Zach Billings was home with his girlfriend, watching a movie in his room, when Mimi, Chad Hyatt, and 2 others came to look for Travis, and it was Zach who unlocked Travis's bedroom door. This was when they were met with the smell and blood. They found Travis crumpled in a heap on the floor of his shower stall with the gunshot wound to his head, a slit across his throat, and 27 to 29 stab wounds. He also had defensive wounds on his hands and fingers. Over the course of the 5 days, there had been 6 people in and out of the house. One of his former roommates, Enrique Cortez Jr., says that it's a large house, and because they didn't go into the sections where Travis's bedroom and bathroom were, they didn't see any of the signs and evidence or smell the odor, though in retrospect, there were things like his ring on the kitchen counter and his bathroom light being left on that should have been red flags. After the discovery, Mimi called 911 and explained what Zach had found. The 911 operator asked if anyone had been threatening Travis. She answered, "He has an ex-girlfriend who has been bothering him, following him, and slashing tires and stuff, things like that." And when asked what his ex-girlfriend's name was, she answered Jodi Arias. According to reports, just 4 months before his death, Travis called the Mesa Police Department to make a complaint of criminal damage because the tires on his car were slashed. Despite multiple witnesses referring to it during testimony, this police report was not used in court because her name wasn't reported, despite others who suspected it was her. It was just one of the pieces of stalking behavior she was accused of exhibiting, including the recording of phone calls. To summarize her stalking behavior, she used to break into his house, she slashed his tires, and she recorded private conversations with him. She also used to follow him on dates with other women and hacked into Travis's email to send mean messages to friends who were women and ex-girlfriends. The police arrive on the scene, and during their search, they find that the sheets have been removed from the bed. Detectives go check the washing machine, and lo and behold, they find the sheets and Travis's brand new digital camera in the washing machine. The laundry had been run, and it seems as though whoever put it in there might have been under the impression that it would ruin the camera and subsequently everything on the memory card. Or maybe it had been wrapped up in the sheets and found its way in there by accident, which you might consider until they saw what was on the camera. On the camera were deleted photos they were able to recover. The photos were dated June 4th, 2008, the day that Travis had died. The photos included sexually suggestive and naked pictures of both Travis and Jodi, and photos of Travis showering. At 5:30 p.m., the camera takes the last photo of Travis alive. 5:32 p.m., there is a picture of Travis bleeding on the ground. It's possible to see someone else in the photo. It is speculated that it is Jodi's leg and foot. And if that didn't seal her fate enough, they also found several long brown hairs and a bloody handprint at the scene of the crime with DNA matching Jodi's. On July 9th, 2008, Jodi Arias was indicted by a grand jury in Maricopa County, Arizona, for the first-degree murder of Travis Alexander. She was arrested at her home and extradited to Arizona on September 5th. During interrogation on the tapes, you can see her between meetings with police, doing bizarre things like a handstand, going through the trash, and singing songs from Dido. Jodi pleaded not guilty on September 11th. At this time, she gave several different accounts about her involvement in Travis's death. She originally told police that she had not been in Mesa on the day of the murder and had last seen Travis in March 2008. When confronted with the camera evidence, she then later told police that 2 intruders had broken into Travis's home, murdering him and attacking her. 2 years after her arrest, Jodi admitted to police that she killed Travis in self-defense, claiming that she had been a victim of domestic violence. When Jodi took the stand in her own defense on February 4th, 2013, she ended up testifying for a total of 18 days. Jodi testified that her relationship with Travis became increasingly physically and emotionally abusive. She said that Travis shook her while saying, "I'm fucking sick of you," then began screaming at her, after which he body slammed her on the floor at the foot of his bed and taunted her, saying, "Don't act like that hurts," before he called her a bitch and kicked her in the ribs. Afterward, Jodi said, "He went to kick me again, and I put my hand out." Arias held up her left hand in the courtroom, showing that her ring finger was crooked. According to Jodi, the dysfunction of their relationship reached the peak when she killed him in self-defense after he became angry when she dropped his new camera, making her fight for her life. This was the third changing account of Travis's death given by Jodi. A lot of people, including attorneys on both sides and the jury, felt it damaged her credibility. Witnesses from the prosecution included several of Travis's other girlfriends, who stated he never exhibited any problems with anger or violence. To be fair, there was a shoplifting and battery charge that was filed in March of 2002 under Travis Alexander's name that led to about 9 days in jail. However, it wasn't actually Travis. It was a family member that stole his identity. This became a big piece of what Travis used in his training and motivational speeches with the prepaid legal company he worked for. Ultimately, Jodi said that Travis was abusive, that she was taking the photos and dropped his new camera, which made him mad. She testified that he body slammed her. She got away and ran down the hallway and into the closet with him chasing her. She remembered where he was keeping a gun, grabbed the gun from a shelf in his closet, and she went back to the bathroom through the door on the other end of the closet, with him still chasing her. She says he got down low like a linebacker and tackled her, causing the gun to go off. She says she accidentally shot him, and he kept pawing at her, saying, "I'm going to kill you, bitch." She was able to get away from him again, went to get the knife, and did the rest of the damage then in the hallway where he chased her down. But supposedly, that all happened within 62 seconds. The photos that were recovered from the camera had the data stored with the times. Between the last photo of Travis taken alive and the final photo showing him bloody on the bathroom floor, 62 seconds had lapsed. Overall, she says, never meant to kill him, but she did in self-defense and had been planning to commit suicide after, which clearly didn't happen considering her timeline after and since she's still around today, though behind bars. There are people out there who think she did it in self-defense, which could be the case. But let's discuss the evidence that's stacked against her, starting with a robbery that happened at Jodi's grandparents' on May 28th, where Jodi lived. Among the missing items were a DVD player, a stereo, and a .25 caliber automatic Colt pistol, which was never recovered. However, there was a pile of change near the robbed gun cabinet that was not taken, but Jodi says $30 was taken from her room. One of Travis's wounds was that he was shot in the head. What caliber was the bullet? On the scene, they found a shell case from a spent .25 caliber round. Despite Jodi saying it was an accident, versions of the run-through according to Jodi's testimony show that if she had shot him in self-defense, it probably would have been at close range. But there was no soot or residue around the wound above his right eyebrow. There were signs of Jodi's vanity throughout her interviews, up to and including asking if she could touch herself up before they took her mugshot when they took her into custody, and asking about her being on the news. There were also things presented in court that are hard to explain away. She had the 2 gas cans from her boyfriend that she said were there because she was taught to never drive through the desert without extra gas. Some of the speculation is that she wanted them, so there was nothing tying her to being in Arizona. If she was carrying extra gas, she wouldn't have to stop and be on CCTV or have receipts tying her to being there. She also purchased a third gas can at the only Walmart in Salinas the day she rented the car. Jodi states that she returned it the same day. However, a simple call to the Salinas Walmart showed she returned it a week later. That alone is suspicious. But so is the email she sent to Travis days after she killed him. I have the part of the email she read in court. It said, "Hey you, I haven't heard back from you. I hope you're not still upset that I didn't come to see you. I just didn't have enough time off. It's okay, sweetie. You're going to be here in less than 2 weeks. We're going to see the sights, check things off the list, and all kinds of fun things. Oregon is beautiful this time of the year. Yay. Be happy. Anyway, I wanted to let you know that I'm thinking about pushing my visit up to next week, but it depends on my budget. So I'm not for sure yet. I know you'll be in Cancun, but I'll probably crash at your house in your cozy bed anyway." The rest of the email describes things like the food she'll eat that he usually keeps, and how he's told her the door is always open and it feels like a second home to her. She sent this email June 7th. 3 days after she'd killed him, and 2 days before he was discovered. She admits that she killed him, but the real reason that is unknown is why. And was it premeditated? Evidence like emails trying to cover her tracks, dyeing her hair, and taking steps to not have to purchase gas in Arizona point to yes. Also, counting against her, while she was in jail, she tried to send secret messages in the pages of a magazine to a friend. Jodi had intended for the 2 items to be handed over to Ann Campbell, a friend who has been a constant supporter and had visited her in jail every week. In one magazine, she attempted to code page numbers, and the other magazine had messages written on the page numbers. The message read, "You fucked up. What you told my attorney the next day directly contradicts what I've been saying for over a year. Get down here ASAP and see me before you talk to them again and before you testify, so we can fix this. Interview was excellent. Must talk ASAP." The intended recipient of the message is ultimately unknown. However, based on court documents, the magazines were intercepted just a few weeks after the prosecution interviewed Jodi's ex-boyfriend, Matthew McCartney, and just 4 days before a pretrial hearing. Ultimately, Jodi Arias admits on record that she killed her ex-boyfriend, Travis Alexander, that fateful June 4th of 2008. On May 7th, 2013, after 15 hours of deliberation, Arias was found guilty of first-degree murder. Out of 12 jurors, 5 jurors found her guilty of first-degree premeditated murder, and 7 jurors found her guilty of both first-degree premeditated murder and felony murder. On April 13th, 2015, Jodi was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. But did she do it in self-defense, or was it premeditated? What do you think?